Hello everyone, I'm Melissa Dudan. Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of Trending Vegas. I'm joined by a portion of the city's communications team, including Natasha Shahani and Jennifer Davies. Thanks so much for being here, guys. Of course, we do want to mention that we are socially distancing. Natasha's way over there. It's our new normal over here at the city of Las Vegas. All right, guys, we have a lot to talk about today, including the latest with COVID-19. The numbers have been improving, and on March 15th, those capacity limits increased to 50%. Let's take a look at social media. This one is from Channel 3. You'll still see the mask and social distancing signs, but the energy on the Las Vegas Strip is revving up. This is from Las Vegas locally. 20% of Nevadans are either fully or partially vaccinated. Soon we'll be able to recklessly swap germs with random tourists again. Then we have this from Danielle. They just removed the annoying one-way stickers from the aisles at my Vons. Does anybody pay attention to those? I don't. Vegas is healing, it goes on to say. And then there is this post from the Review Journal. Crowds flooded the Strip on Saturday, just 2 days before casino capacity restrictions increased to 50% from 35% on Monday. But these pictures they posted are very, very telling of what's going on here in town right now. And just by the look of those RJ pictures, guys, it looks like things are back to normal pretty much. And it's shocking to me. It makes me happy. It also makes me a little cautious. But I think, what are you guys hearing from people about these increased capacity limits? Jen, I'll start with you.
I think on social, I've seen a lot of people talk about how things are looking and feeling more normal. You're going to see the signage and maybe more hand sanitizing stations, and of course the mask requirement when you're in the casinos. But it definitely is feeling like Vegas is healing. I drove back from California this weekend, and it looked like a normal weekend coming out of Vegas on Sunday night.
Really? Aren't they still more strict in California? Natasha, you go to California a lot.
Yeah, but they are starting to loosen. I think, there were kind of spring break jabs pointed at us of don't come here, go to Vegas. I think that was from Miami. So right. People are coming here. They haven't stopped coming here throughout this, but I have also noticed it's getting busier and busier. And, with the March Madness, with the racetracks, with EDC coming up, we're just going to continue to feel like we're moving back to normal. What's going to happen when we do that? I mean, only time will tell, but the mask mandate is still in place. Social distancing will still remain. So it's about safely reopening and safely being able to keep our industry open and thriving.
Yeah, and a lot of things have happened over the last few weeks. For example, they continue to open up the vaccination requirements or eligibility. So, hospitality workers were able to come in, and the lines have been really, really long. Some of the social media shows that these hospitality industry workers, they're going to get their vaccine. Everyone, not everyone, but a lot of people want to get it for safety reasons. We had a visit from our Vice President, Kamala Harris, the other day. She went to the UNLV COVID vaccine place, and I feel like it's gaining momentum. I think the vaccine has been out a little bit longer, so people are starting to feel maybe a little bit more comfortable because they've let their friends or their family go and let me see if you get a third arm before I go and get my vaccine, So I think it's really, really interesting. You did touch on March Madness, and I want to say last year March Madness was canceled.
I know.
So this weekend and the weekends coming up, it's a really, really big deal for Las Vegas. We lost so much money because of March Madness shutting down, our own shutdown. And I see all over social media people saying, oh, I will be in Vegas for March Madness. Anything else on what we're seeing?
Well, we were excited to see that the vaccine rollout is now including frontline, resort workers, which I think is really important for Las Vegas. Mm-hmm. I saw a few complaints about the lines because that's been a recent development this week. And so I'm sure that'll shake out and continue to be smoother as the process continues.
All right, so we'll see where it goes. And then local jurisdictions are supposed to be taking over May 1st. Now, again, that is if the numbers keep low. If things start to go up again, the governor has made it very clear that we will switch directions and do what we need to do to keep everyone safe. So fingers crossed that that positivity rate continues to just go down. All right, well, let's go ahead and switch gears a little bit. 2 men have been arrested for the assault of Capitol Police Officer Brian Sicknick. Now, this is from CNN. 2 men are arrested and charged for assaulting U.S. Capitol Police Officer Brian Sicknick, who died after responding to the January 6th riot. Then we have this. Has his actual cause of death even been released yet? What's the holdup on that? Then we have these new images. Julian Cater bear spraying Capitol Police Officer Sicknick and his colleagues. You can see the officers hit. They appear to react one by one and retreat to flush their eyes with water. They've been charged with assault. They have not been charged with the murder, and that is because the autopsy has not come out. The results have not come out. So a lot of people are questioning, will they eventually be charged with murder? We do not know at this point. But what I found interesting about this is social media and everybody with their cameras and their videos help identify these individuals. Jen?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I think it's really a sign of our times that they were able to piece together so much of what happened from people live streaming, taking photos, posting stuff on their own social media accounts. And I think in this case, it's really helped them get a full picture of what happened that day.
Yeah. Natasha?
Social media is great for so many reasons, but we've also know that how it can be disastrous. Whether you agreed with what they did or not, this is proving like you don't know who's watching you, what's being documented, who has their camera on you. You just kind of have to be careful. In my opinion, like this case is like for good. We can, help find those people, but it's just something to kind of be wary. Like, do you know how many photos or videos are posted of you in the background of somebody else's social media post? Like it's kind of bizarre and very intriguing to think about.
Well, it is, and I was thinking about how this would play out in a courtroom, right? You start to get random people's social media accounts, then you're being called to testify, and we need to use your video, and you're becoming a witness in a huge federal case. So you just never know. Like you said, I could be walking across the street, someone's videotaping something behind me, but I happen to be in the video. And there you go. You just never know. So I just thought it was interesting how that came to place. And we will all see how this plays out, if those two people will be charged with his murder or not. All right, guys, moving on to more international news. And it's the interview everyone was talking about. Prince Harry and Meghan Markle sat down with Oprah for a very detailed interview. I saw the whole thing. I was shocked that so many details came out. Here's some of the social media. First, who knew that one day Oprah would take down the British monarchy? And I love this one. The Crown's writer room right now. It's Kermit the Frog just typing away as fast as he can. And then there's this. We stand behind you, Meghan. And finally, breaking. The Duke of Cambridge has defended the royal family against accusations of racism made by the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, saying we're very much not a racist family during a visit to an East London school. So guys, there's a lot. There's
a lot to unpack there.
There's a lot to unpack. I'm going to just be honest. I went into the interview I had formulated my thoughts about the Prince Harry and Meghan exit, the Megxit as they called it. And then after this interview, I was like, oh, well, wait. And so I thought it was really interesting because now I'm going, I've told myself, and I tell you all at home all the time, well, be careful. There's always several sides to the story. And I'm going, well, what do I believe? What's true? I don't know. And I thought it was really interesting that so many eyes just watched this interview. Jen, you love the royals. So let's talk about why you think so many people sat down and took the time to watch this interview.
I think there was just a lot of mystery around it. The royal family is notorious for not commenting on spats, disagreements, the internal family workings. There's really a veil of mystery there, and I think they really ripped that veil down in a way that really had not been seen since the 1990s when Princess Diana did that other jaw-dropping interview from that time. And I was really interested to see, Twitter is international, and people were live tweeting as they were watching the documentary and in the days after the interview. And I was really surprised to see really how Americans felt versus how the UK felt. And it was very different. I think Americans were more likely to be sympathetic to what Meghan Markle has been through.
Yeah, and I was thinking that their press people had to be in panic mode, complete panic mode. What do you do in this situation? Natasha, from your standpoint, what did you see on social? What were your takeaways from this interview?
It's very interesting, and I think the one thing that she said that really resonated with how we view the monarchy versus how maybe the people in Europe do is she grew up in LA, I grew up in LA, I get it. You see celebrities around, they're living their life. Sometimes paparazzi's with them, sometimes they're not. And I think that was my perspective of like the royals too, right? Like they're just like European celebrities, but there's so much more into that. And I don't watch The Crown and not into it as much as Jen is, but like that's how I viewed it. So I get where she came from to be like, oh, it's normal, right? Like I grew up with people like this, but it's so different because it's an institution that has been guarded for centuries. So
Right. Yeah.
it'll be interesting to see what happens as it evolves, right? Because they're all scheduled to be together in July, COVID restrictions pending for an unveiling of a Princess Diana statue, and tensions are
I think
still
as social
high.
media continues to be a big part of society, the royal family will have to adjust and let the public into their life more than they have traditionally if they want to survive. I think that's just the nature of today's world, to be transparent, and that's going to include making more statements than they have before and being more cognizant of how their internal family workings represent the culture of their country.
Yeah, and they've started to, but very minimally. They're very surfaced Instagram, cute pictures of
Right.
the kids, or but you're right. They're going to have to start to kind of open up and be a little bit more transparent, in our opinions, as they move forward. All right, finally, guys, we want to quickly talk about an extension of a current platform that will be rolled out by Twitter next month. It's called Twitter Spaces. Now, Spaces tweeted out, the human voice can bring a layer of connectivity to Twitter through emotion, nuance, and empathy often lost in text. We see this with voice tweets and voice DMs. Sometimes 280 isn't enough, and voice gives people another way to join the conversation. So I thought this was interesting. This is going to be, Natasha, you had to actually explain it to me. It's going to be like, I get to open up a Twitter space on whatever topic I want. I can invite people, correct? And have a conversation where I'm kind of the moderator and making sure nothing gets out of hand. But I think it's really interesting. And I think it would actually be interesting if it works to somehow incorporate it into our show, to hear what you guys are saying at home. Jen, what are you hearing about Twitter Spaces?
Social audio is having a big moment right now. Clubhouse is the direct competitor. They were really the first ones that unleashed this new social audio trend, which is really different from what we've seen on social media. Video is king for content on social and for social in general. You look at TikTok, that's all video, of course. So it's a major shift in the industry. Other platforms have tried audio recently in the last couple years, and it just hasn't worked. So I think COVID has contributed to the success of people wanting that connection. And I think, people are on their phones all the time. They love podcasting. Social audio is really an extension of that, but a little bit better because you can bring in live discussion and you can take questions. You can meet up with like-minded people to talk about different topics. So I think we're going to see more of a trend towards this from all the platforms. Instagram is working on it. Facebook is working on it. So now it'll be trying to figure out where you want to spend your time if you're going to do audio and where you want to have those conversations.
And from a government standpoint, is this something that the city of Las Vegas would utilize if deemed safe? Yeah.
Definitely. So, we've tried podcasting. Podcasting is very popular, but tricky because you do have to build up your audience like you do on any other platform, and it takes time to be able to do that and develop content. We already have a really strong following on Twitter, so I think trying Twitter Spaces is definitely something that we want to do. We really look forward to bringing in official sources of information from those verified government accounts to talk about different issues that are happening in our community from the agency's perspective. And I just think it's going to give a different layer of intrigue to people that you don't find through Facebook Live. In Twitter Spaces and on Clubhouse too, everything is live. There's no recording. So there is some FOMO there. If you're not there for the live discussion, you completely miss out. And so it's going to be interesting to see how that all shakes out. But we're excited to try it.
Natasha, your thoughts on it?
They're basically selling it as a place live conversation happens. So, Clubhouse is still, invite only. I think you can get your hands on an invite a lot more, easily than you were a few months ago. So it's interesting to see Twitter get into this space. There have been some questions about accessibility, right? That is big. We've talked about it on the show before, especially with the new administration and with social media sites. So if how is that going to be accessible to all of the audiences? But I think it provides a great opportunity, like Jen was explaining, and it's going to be great to watch it start out and see how it influences all the other platforms, and especially to see what it does to Clubhouse.
I heard a really good description that said, so on social media, we're so used to everybody commenting and the war of the comments. And it used to be enough and you could have conversation, but now it's mostly people commenting and firing off. social audio is potentially going to change this to be more conversation, to bring you together to talk about topics that are important, and for everybody to hear out the other side and maybe evolve their opinion. And I think social media could use more of that.
Very good point. All right, a lot to look forward to, a lot of stuff they're going to have to monitor over the next couple of months. Even more to do, guys. All right, guys. Well, things might look like they are getting back to normal and feel like they're getting back to normal. And that's good because there is a lot going on in downtown Las Vegas. New businesses are open and lots of opportunity awaits. We'll tell you all about it coming up next.
Mom, can we get some ice cream?
Please, Mom, please.
No, we're having dinner soon.
Please.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of children in foster care who will take you just as you are.
I'm Anne. I'm a scientist.
Recycling takes a team.
Why don't you let me
And me.
help you out?
Everyone plays a part. Don't trash
I love taking stuff apart and building new things out of it.
what could be treasure.
Pal's my most advanced android.
This is awesome.
You haven't seen anything yet.
Give your cardboard box another life. Recycle.
From new restaurants and breweries to tech centers, the downtown area has seen tons of change and opportunity. So we wanted to give everyone an update on what exactly is going on down here. I'm joined by Ryan Smith, Business Development Manager here at the City with EUD. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So there's a lot that has happened over the last year when everything was kind of shut down. I don't think a lot of people realize what's happening. I drive through downtown, whether it be for work or personal life, and I've noticed so many new things that businesses that were not there before or maybe kind of just sneaked in. So let's start from the beginning. What has it been like for the last year for EUD and bringing businesses in?
Yeah, so everybody always asks me whenever I have any conversation is like, what's happening in Vegas? You know, obviously the pandemic has affected the city in a lot of different ways, but what I tell everybody is from a project and construction standpoint, almost nothing has stopped for the city of Las Vegas. So we have a lot of new projects that are going, some that you've witnessed from just driving around the city. But we've also been creative about attracting new talent, new workforce, new housing products to the city. And yeah, I think there's a lot of good and positive that has happened over the past year aside from the pandemic, and a lot to look forward to.
I think that that's not something most people would expect you to say. I think they would think during a pandemic we saw everything boarded up down there, but there was really behind the scenes work going on, and now we're starting to see the fruits of everyone's labor.
Right.
So let's talk about, I guess everyone wants to get back out there. Capacity limits have increased. So let's start with the new breweries, that kind of area in the Arts District. What is going on down there? It just seems like there's tons of places to check out now.
So my favorite area.
Yeah, right? I think it's going to be my new favorite area.
Thanks for bringing that up. Yeah, so anyway, there's the city is launching an initiative to create an area called Brewery Row. We've seen a huge uptick in the amount of new launches over the past year. We have places like Able Baker, Nevada Brew Works. I was at Cerveza last Thursday, which was an amazing location, as well as restaurants. We've had Good Pie, Main Street Provisions. So there's this kind of really cool continuity on Main Street in the Arts District where you can kind of bounce around to breweries, have some local food, check out the retail locations. Like you mentioned, the capacities are increasing, so the bars are going to be opening back up. So it's a really cool vibe that's happening in the Arts District right now, for sure.
Why do you think it's breweries? Do you think that's just the thing that Gen Z's into, or what's going on with that?
Craft beer is trendy, I think, that number one. And then, number two, I think they tend to cluster. Like in major cities around the country, there's a lot of areas where there's just kind of the craft mentality, and that includes breweries. We have a distillery that's going into the Arts District that should be completed within the next year. So I think there's a real value proposition in being close to each other, and really parlaying off of that art, craft, culture, food experience that people look for.
Absolutely. So you've talked to a lot of these business owners on a regular basis. What are they telling you about getting customers back in the door? Are people excited? Are they seeing business pick up?
Yeah, they're starting to see business. I mean, Abel Baker will tell you, and even Cerveza or the breweries will say, we have to turn people away at times. You know, they're trying to be as creative as possible to be able to serve their customers. Esther's Kitchen has a really cool concept in the back of their restaurant where they had like little house hut type places to have people in. The city's been creative in allowing businesses to encroach onto the sidewalk to have outdoor seating, and all that's been gobbled up. So the demand is definitely there, and they can't wait to be able to open their doors further to allow customers to come in.
All right, great news. Okay, let's move on to the Symphony Park area. I think a lot of people, you probably drive by this on I-15, so you know all of that construction that you're seeing. What is going on with Symphony Park? An update on the construction and when people, there's going to be living as well as retail there, correct?
Yeah, it's kind of like an all-encompassing, self-contained community. So obviously it's anchored by the Smith Center, which is an amazing performing arts center in the heart of really Symphony Park. Blackstone, which owns the World Market Center, has just completed a 300,000 square foot convention center space, which is really the first large-scale convention center space aside from the World Market Center in downtown, which is starting to program in the second quarter of this year. The two apartment complexes that are going up, one's called Oric, the other is called Park Haven. Both of them plan to house residents by July of this year. There will be over 650 units combined in both complexes.
So they've stayed on track.
Oh yeah, they haven't slowed down.
Wow.
Yeah, so again, I mentioned from a construction standpoint, if financing was in place before the pandemic, no construction projects have really stopped. Some may have slowed a little bit closer to the Strip, just with uncertainty in really the gaming hospitality sector. But the multifamily housing and residential housing sectors in Las Vegas are as strong as they've ever been.
Wow, that's amazing. Okay, so it's kind of going back to the pandemic and the uncertainty. A lot of people have had to shift what they're doing in terms of employment. There's a lot more work from home. But I've heard a lot of leaders say, listen, work from home is going to be the new norm for our corporation, or is going to be the new norm for our business. And so what kind of opportunity does that provide the city of Las Vegas? That seems like a trend that's not going to go away anytime soon that we kind of need to get ahead of.
Yeah. So the city launched a big initiative in our department to attract new talent to Las Vegas. This work actually started before the pandemic actually happened. We were seeing that a lot of freelance technology workers had the ability to work anywhere. You could start to feel in corporate culture that there was more of a flexible work environment happening. It was no longer like punch in at 9, punch out at 5. People just wanted more flexibility, and leaders in technology started doing that before the pandemic. And then the pandemic hit, and it was everybody's now at home. Major companies, specifically in technology, were making announcements like Microsoft, Spotify, Coinbase, for permanent full-time remote work. Other companies announced partial remote work. And so we said, hey, you know, these people can now work from anywhere, and Las Vegas brings such a huge value proposition. If you're living in San Francisco working for Google and you make $250,000 a year, you can barely afford a 1-bedroom apartment. The average median home price in the San Francisco Bay Area is over $1.5 million. So if you take that salary and move it to Las Vegas, you can still continue to work for your company, your dream company, but you can have a quality of life that you can have in Las Vegas at the same pay range. Why would you not move here?
Right.
So we started actually reaching out to very specific people at very specific companies, inviting them to have a conversation with us about what it's like to live in Vegas, what things are like outside of the Strip, what the community is like. And people really took on to that. We had over 250 conversations. We reached out to over 1,000 people. This will all culminate into a day in May where we actually invite some of these people to come check out Vegas. We have a lot of sponsors that are helping. But yeah, we'll actually get them to experience Las Vegas. And we've actually taken that model and used that to attract the CEOs of some of the tech companies as well to get them interested in Las Vegas.
Wow, okay. So would you all provide these work remote centers? Or,
Yeah.
or how that work?
Yeah, so at the International Innovation Center, we have hot desk space is what it's called, essentially co-working space that we can help house, some of these individuals. The other aspect of this, what we'll eventually go to is say, go back to a Google, a Twitter, a Facebook, and say, hey, your employees do want to live in Las Vegas. You should probably consider opening up a regional location in the city so that they can come and you can still have those touch points of collaboration within your company. So that's kind of phase 2. Phase 1 is get them here.
Yeah.
Phase 2 is, prove that Vegas is a really great market for this. And that kind of goes back to some of the due diligence that technology companies or any company does when they're entering a new market is they look at the labor force, they look at the cost of doing business, they look at government policy and regulations. And so there's this big decision matrix, but the employee is really a very important part of that. So this is kind of solving that from the perspective of labor. The labor force is in very high demand, and the technology companies need to compete for it. They have to be in the places where those people want to be.
So what makes Las Vegas, stand out compared to other cities that might be trying to pursue the same business, so to speak?
So there's one great example, and I use this in almost every conversation I have, is Tulsa, Oklahoma is offering $10,000 to somebody that will move there. And I've had a lot of conversations, like I mentioned before. And 10 grand to somebody that's making a few $100,000 a year isn't a huge number. But the reality is the city's not connected. Vegas is so connected, not only domestically, but globally. We have over 500 domestic flights out of the airport, the international airport. We have flights to Europe, to Asia, to South America, to Canada. I think being so connected where they can pick up and maybe they'll have a meeting, maybe they'll have to go back to San Francisco, the Bay Area, maybe they'll have to go to LA, Austin, a place like that. Vegas is just so connected. And then just from a pure cost perspective, we have no personal state income tax, which in California, most of these people are at the 13% state income tax level. So literally just the bottom line of their paycheck is affected greatly, more than any other state. We also have very low property taxes as well. And then again, we have beautiful, beautiful amenities. We have Red Rock Canyon, we have Mount Charleston. We're still close to the beach in LA. We're still close to Park City. Like, we have almost everything here. And then add on top of that, world-class dining and entertainment.
Right.
I mean, no other city can compete on that level with Vegas.
Wow, so good luck to you. I mean, you guys have a lot of work ahead of you, but I mean, there's some great selling points and some great opportunity for major, major growth here in the city.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you for all your work. Thanks for the update.
Thanks for having me.
All right, well, that's going to do it. Remember, you can get in on the conversation. All you have to do is follow us at City of Las Vegas, and you can always watch us online at kclv.tv or download our Go Vegas app to watch on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. Have a great day, everyone. We'll see you next time.